Hey everybody, I'm back, on time, on schedule, no obstacles, with bountiful returns. I'm basically the DCU. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm still excited and incredibly hopeful for my favorite comic book world to be on the big screen properly. Supergirl looks amazing, and Lanterns, despite its best effort to not be a Green Lantern show, still looks cool. And all the other projects ready to go are... No, that's about it, isn't it? For the record, there's a lot of stuff that's in development and in the works, so hopefully I'll be eating my words soon in like a year and a half. Please don't screw up Wonder Woman. Please don't. But yeah, apart from those two I already mentioned, all we really got to look forward to is Man of Tomorrow and whatever season 3 or spin-off of Peacemaker we're getting. And I respect the process for sure. They're focusing on putting out good stuff that they want to make versus stuff they feel obligated to. And also, like, we're technically only a year into the DCU, so, like, I'm not expecting, like, phase 2 already, if they're doing phases, or chapters, volume, whatever they're doing. But, the news of stalling projects is about all we're hearing. Either something isn't working, or they're trying to find a workaround for it, or it's just straight up canceled. How's that Waller show going? Swamp Thing? Booster Gold. But there was one of those projects from the jump, from the original pitch of the DCU, even with all the stalling. I was kinda like, eh. And that would be The Authority. Mainly because, like a lot of people, I had no idea who they were. I thought maybe they were some sort of spin-off of the Elite. I heard Superman and The Authority was really cool during Infinite Frontier. Do you remember Infinite Frontier? That was really cool. But again, I knew zip, zada, zero, nothing. Then I saw the engineer kick ass in Superman by doing the weirdest handstand ever conceived, and also pulling this move, which made me want to tape down every hole in my face. So I thought, oh, okay, cool, a team of, like, anti-heroes to bounce off against the Justice League, Black Adam style, but done properly, which is cool, if we had an actual league to bounce off of. Now, we have the Justice Gang, we know the Justice League is gonna be coming, we have Superman and a bunch of other leaguers running around just waiting to team up. So what are they gonna do if they're one of the first projects in this universe? So, looking for answers on what characters this movie would be portraying, I went to the source. I read the book. And let me tell you, it's a book. Now, off base. If you liked The Authority, like The Authority, I don't judge you. I do not think it is the absolute worst. I don't think it's necessarily bad. There have been so many, too many to count, worse superhero books out there, and this isn't one of them. It's just not my cup of tea. For context, I read this, which is basically Volume 1. I read Volume 2, some of the spin-offs, mainly Midnighter and Apollo, and for backstory, as much of Stormwatch as I could stomach, which was not a lot. It's incredibly 90s. And also just checking to see if they were adapting Superman and The Authority. I read that too, and basically all of the Warworld saga, because man, the Warworld saga is one of the best Superman stories out there. I highly recommend. Action Comics, read it. I put myself through a lot of stuff, good and but not Tom King's Jenny Sparks book, because I don't want to waste my precious time on Earth reading about how American interventionism is good and him kinda, waxing poetically about how 9/11 changed him or whatever, because that's literally the plot of the book. It's Jenny Sparks dealing with the aftermath of 9/11 in the 2020s. Also, Tom, hey, she's British and a woman, and we know for a fact you can't write either of those. So here are my problems, and I'm not gonna do like a play-by-play of every single event in there. So if you wanna form your own opinion on The Authority, read the books yourself. So for starters, and I think this is the main one, I don't know what role they are supposed to fill in the DCU. Now, if you haven't guessed already, they're a super team. Comic books are no stranger to team-up books or having multiple teams in the same universe. Hell, Marvel basically runs on having a bunch of teams, but DC is a little different with the fact that the Justice League is kind of just the main and only team when you think about it. Doom Patrol and Challengers of the Unknown notwithstanding, but like the Teen Titans, the Justice Society of America, Justice League Dark, hell, the Legion of Superheroes are kind of just the Justice League in a different font. That feels blasphemous to say, but I'm not necessarily wrong. And I think that's kind of the main reason why DC doesn't use them. Why have this team when we got our main guys to go up against the big stuff? And to quote Mean Girls,
she doesn't even go here.
Yeah, remember, they're not really DC characters, they're Wildstorm characters, an independent company kind of bouncing off of Image, founded by the great Jim Lee, that was brought back into the fold in 1999 and kind of doing its own thing until 2010 when they fully got absorbed into DC. Which, in comics terms, wasn't really that long ago, even though, counting, it was 16 years ago. I'm only 23 and I feel ancient. But yeah, the Authority have kind of been doing their own thing for a while, so inserting them into like the main timeline of movies is gonna be kinda confusing about their role in that universe without changing some things up, especially because they're an offshoot of Stormwatch, Wildstorm's like UN-sanctioned Avengers team. So you're probably going to have to scrap that or do what Marvel does and be like, oh, they were here the whole time. It was a government secret. That's probably what they're gonna do. I mean, it's doable, it worked for the engineer, and apart from her xenophobia in Superman, she's a really solid character and member of the team, just a whole lot more shinier. The rest of the team are also kinda cool. You have Jack Hawksmoor, the king of cities, who has the power of urban symbiosis. Basically, he can move in rhythm with and within urban environments, and he also has the staple of super strength and durability, also super weird feet for some reason. You got Swift, who is basically Hawk Girl. She has wings and is fast and is good at killing. She also pilots the Carrier, which is too complicated to get into right now. There's also their resident magic man, the Doctor. Sorry, the Doctor. Nope, not him. The Doctor. Nope, not him either. The Doctor. There we go. He's also called the Shaman. It's a great backstory of a lineage of, like, magic users sworn to protect this Earth realm, but he's just kind of treated as their resident junkie and weird guy, mainly because he is those things. He's also a coward. Then there's our favorite power couple. We got Midnighter and Apollo. One is an amnesiac man who has a computer chip in his head that gives him all the possibilities on how to beat and mutilate his opponents within seconds. And one is a genetically engineered sun god, who's basically their resident powerhouse a la Superman. And finally, we got the leader of the group, Jenny Sparks, the spirit of the 20th century. 100 years of her guaranteed physical prime, electric-based powers, and a smoking habit. She brings the team together and whips them all into shape, barking orders. And if you want to know more about their personalities, I basically just told them to you. Yeah, that's another thing. I like the character concepts, but they're not really characters in the book, apart from them being the Authority. Sure, they have some spin-offs, but you gotta have something in the team book. I mean, you kinda see it a little bit in the book. There's snippets. Swift gets into separate situationships with the Doctor and Jack. Midnighter and Apollo have their groundbreaking relationship and parenthood, portrayed better and worse in independent books. And Jenny has a little bit of a struggle having a very secret past and the fact she knows that her time is up at the end of the century. The book takes place in 1999. But again, you only get like a page or two of that in the 4 issues each arc takes up, in which most of it is them fighting. It's like 80% battles. And it's like, yeah, if you're gonna stick to a 4-issue storyline, yeah, you gotta get the lead out and have it be action, but also, you can do more issues per storyline. I don't understand why you're pigeonholing yourself here. You can add a chapter, dude. No one's gonna be mad at you. But I mean, that's why these teams exist, right? To handle the threats that we couldn't do on our own. Which, for example, yeah, they go through some crap because, oh my god, this is catastrophic. Power scale-wise, yeah, I think the Justice League might struggle with this a little. I mean, you got your standard alien invasion. You have an invading alternate dimension of the British and Italian Empire. Genetically engineered army of super people. Reality warping executives with alien technology. The owners of the Earth. It is a lot. Borderline too much. Every situation they go through is an absolute world ender with a shit ton of collateral damage and power scaling that would make a Dragon Ball fan cream their pants. And I mean, hey, I want my adventures to have stakes, but it's kinda hard to keep the stakes up when every single one is as high as it can ever be. And again, this is all within 4 issues per storyline. It is immediate annihilation. Fight it. Okay, that was cool. Up, we got another thing. Like, it's technically a time skip, but I'm just blasting through it. So if they're saving the world, what would the Authority be bringing that the Justice Gang and the eventual Justice League wouldn't already be doing, since they are, protectors of the planet and beyond? Bringing the edge, apparently. Yeah, those threats I mentioned before? Yeah, let's run them down a little more in detail. The guy who made the super army is basically an OG Mandarin clone, if you know, you know. That empire from another reality is ran by a guy who wants to turn the Earth into a place to widen the gene pool by force. Rhymes with grape. Another pack of monsters they fight is made by a literal white supremacist who thinks they're the result of race mixing. Reality Inc. and the other invasions that I've read were pretty normal, but still gotta throw in that edge in there for some reason. And yeah, it's usually sexual in nature. Again, 1999. And yeah, you can change them, but my god, you would have to change about everything. The appeal is that they're supposed to be brutal and unrelenting, but I've seen worse in the Ultimates. Now that I think about it, I feel like this is just diet Ultimates. Even down to the art style, mainly because, yeah, they have the same artist. Brian Hitch, I am sad that your great artwork is mainly attached to things that do not age well. But the entire crux of why I felt about the adaptation in the first place is that they assign themselves to be the authority over the planet. I mean, it is their namesake, but it still feels weird. Like, yeah, sure, they protect the world from giant disasters and then are like, yeah, but we do all these grand things. We're gonna move the needle. We're going to steer the direction of this entire world. Hell, maybe even other worlds. And then they don't really think about the implications of it. They don't talk about it. They only talk about it, really, among themselves. There is a giant gap between the authority and the people they're supposed to be protecting. Mainly because you barely, or straight up never, see them interact with anybody. The most you get out of, like, the outside world is the UN bitching about them for a bit, and then you move on. It is basically fight off the first initial wave of bad guys, regroup and strategize in your giant ship. By the way, they have a giant ship called the Carrier that is about the size of a city. It's several miles long and several miles wide, and is in a place called the Bleed, which is a parallel dimension, but it's also people's dreams. I have never seen it explained, and I don't really care to have it be. But yes, it is basically fight, use Dimensional Door to go back here, talk for a bit about what they're gonna do the plan, beat the bad guy. Again, 4 issues. I'm not saying they need to have like a town hall or something, but like other than Jenny for sure dying at the end of the century and being reborn, I'm not seeing any consequences or substance, especially within the team. It's just a team of super strong people fighting off a wave of faceless monsters usually, and then maybe they'll commit what we consider an atrocity, not apologize for it, and then wait for us to be either impressed with how cool and unrelenting they are, or be upset on how cool and unrelenting they are. I mean, hey, if that's your cup of tea, fine. The DCU is no stranger to, like, unapologetic anti-heroes who are down with killing and doing bad things. I just think it's a bit of an outlier for a major project in the first slate of movies for your universe. I just don't think I would pay much for a ticket. And yeah, and for a team who's like, yeah, we're gonna do this and we don't care who like tries to stop us or disapproves of what we do. That's basically all superheroes do. The only difference is you kill maybe sometimes. Like sorry, I'm not that impressed. Just like, oh yeah, we're going outside the law to protect humanity and do what we think is right. Cool, you gave us the definition of a superhero. Sorry. Maybe it was part of his, like, initial plan, but by the looks of everything else, plans are changing anyway. I don't mean to badmouth too much. I would still like to see them. I still think they are cool in concept, but maybe in a more, like, The Boys style adaptation, like a little more boots on the ground, rather than being like a giant cog in the new universe. I will, however, absolutely take Midnighter and Apollo in their own solo project, maybe in a Married with Children style sitcom, and or Jack Hawksmoor mentoring City Boy, who is a new character made by DC, because absolutely new characters are always cool. But apart from that, that's all I really gotta say, other than I'm excited for new Momoa as Lobo in Supergirl. Supergirl seems cool, but Tom King, please only be involved in name only. But I mean, hey, if Tom King being involved in some projects is the worst it can get, then I think we'll be okay. I mean, it's not like DC itself is gonna fall under some new authority or anything. Fuck!